Aristotle is supposed to have said that quality is not an act, it's a habit. In other words, success is a product of our routines. To reach your goals, you have to build the routines that will get you there. I take that approach to almost everything in my life. But today, I want to talk about how you can use it to become immensely wealthy, or at least financially independent. That's because if you build the right habits, you can get rich on autopilot. But not everyone is convinced that habits are so important. You'll hear many financial gurus tell you to only focus on your largest and most consequential expenses. So let me first explain why habits are so important and the healthy habits that I'm using to reach financial freedom at 29 years old. And if you stay around long enough, I'll even share how to build those habits in a way that they'll stick. I'm a strong believer that habits are my superpower. I attribute almost all of my success, whether that was in athletics, school, or in my career, to having a super consistent routine that I almost never deviate from. And I'm applying that same strategy to accelerate my wealth and reach financial independence. But some will argue that habits can only make so much of a difference. For example, while I'm in the habit of eating rice and chicken every day instead of dropping $25 on brunch, some would argue that those savings are insignificant compared to the decisions I make when I buy a house or buy a car. There is definitely some truth to that. But my biggest issue with that line of thinking is that those big financial decisions only come up so often. If you want to get rich on autopilot, you have to build healthy habits instead of waiting for those big opportunities to come up. And while $5 here and $5 there might not sound like it would make a big difference, it does. In a past video, I compared my expenses, which are under $20,000 a year, to the average American household, which spends over $60,000 a year. When I looked at why there was such a big difference, there wasn't anything that really stuck out. Those savings were across a lot of different expense categories. There's no secret to getting rich on autopilot. You just have to build the habits that save you money wherever you can. That means that I'm saving $40,000 more than the average American household every single year. And if that's not crazy enough, going by the 4% rule to calculate how much money you need to retire, that also means that I need $1 million less dollars to retire. My motto here at Running on Fire is make more, spend less, then invest. Those are the three components of reaching financial freedom, and I try to build habits that help me optimize each of them. In terms of earning money, a 9 to 5 already provides a lot of structure. And since I only get a raise about once a year, there's not a lot I can do to increase my income. So when it comes to building healthy habits, I just make sure that I'm an effective and valued employee. I also make sure that my work ethic is sustainable so I don't get burnt out. And while I haven't made any money from the YouTube videos I've made so far, at least at the time of making this video, I treat this YouTube channel like a business too. I dedicate a set amount of time every single week to write, film, and edit these videos. And hopefully, once enough of you smash the like button on these videos, I'll get monetized and be able to make a few dollars for that time. And if you've watched enough videos on this YouTube channel, you know that my main focus is keeping expenses extremely low. And this is where habits are extremely important and where a lot of people have the most improvement to make. For example, I'm in the habit of doing all of my own cooking instead of eating out. That means that compared to the average American household, I'm saving $3,000 a year on takeout and eating in restaurants. I'm also in the habit of biking to work, and I don't even own a car. That means that, compared to the average American, I'm saving another $10,000 a year on transportation.
And hey, it's me from the future because there's one more habit that saves me a ton of money that I should have mentioned here. That habit is not getting ripped off by my phone plan. And that's why I partnered with Mint Mobile, who has phone plans for as low as $15 a month. So what's the catch? Well, if you find one, let me know, because I haven't found any. And it's not even hard to switch, it only takes about 15 minutes. So if you want to get in the habit of saving a boatload of money on your phone plan, you should probably click the link in the description or scan this QR code. Anyway, back to the video.
Here's the thing. The real reason that I'm on track to retire at 29 years old is because of the habits that I don't have. I'm not in the habit of going out every weekend, which saves me thousands of dollars on transportation and alcohol. And I'm not in the habit of watching TV, so I don't pay for any streaming services or cable. Avoiding unhealthy habits is just as important as building healthy ones. And if you've made a lot and only spent a little, then you'll have a lot of extra money that you can invest. To get rich on autopilot, I want to make that process happen as easily as possible. That's why, for every paycheck that I get, I automatically have my payroll department deduct $900 and put it into a Roth 401k. On top of that, I have a scheduled deposit for every single Friday that sends another $500 from my bank account to my personal investment account. Every now and then, I'll have even more money to invest, and I'll make a manual transfer. But those automatic scheduled deposits make it extremely easy to get rich without ever having to think about it. The beauty of this is that once you have a habit in place, life just becomes easier. I spend very little time actually thinking about my finances because I'm getting rich on autopilot. But what if you don't have these healthy habits yet and are having trouble getting started? Well, this is how I approach building habits that actually stick. First up, you need to avoid what I call the new year, new me approach. If the average American went from spending $60,000 a year to spending $20,000 a year, it would be a massively jarring transition. Most would hate it, and they'd return to their old habits. But it's not that living on $20,000 a year is impossible. I'm doing it, and I'm perfectly happy. Now, I'm the fireman, and that's kind of my thing. But the most important thing is that I've built up those habits over a long period of time. So instead of diving straight into the deep end, learn to swim in shallow water first. By taking incremental steps, you'll give yourself more time to adjust. And as soon as you're ready, you can implement another change. Of course, at the same time, you'll want to avoid being complacent. You'll have to find the right balance for you. One thing that might make these changes easier is making it fun for yourself. If you have to force yourself to do it, it's probably not sustainable. You have to enjoy the process. So if you're trying to build new habits, make sure to define your goals. Having an end state will give you inspiration and motivation. For me, my goal is to reach financial freedom before I turn 30 years old. When I'm tired riding my bike in the morning and wishing I was sitting in a luxury car, I can remind myself that in the end, I'd much rather be financially independent. And ideally, the habits you build should be making your life better incrementally. While having big milestones, like reaching financial freedom, can be an important end state, it's just as important to get some positive feedback along the way. This is actually something I first learned from one of my favorite YouTube channels, Kurzgesagt in a Nutshell. They have an entire video on how to build habits, and I'll link that in the description. If you associate positive things with a new habit, you'll start to look forward to it, and that makes it way easier to adopt a habit fast. If getting rich on autopilot is your goal, adopting these new habits quickly is a very good thing. One last thing. I talk a lot about trying to reach financial freedom before I turn 30 years old, but you might have missed my video where I explain my step-by-step plan for reaching that milestone. I'll link that video right here just in case you want to check it out. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.